All right, everybody, it's our Clow here, and oh my fucking god, there's a lot going on. It's it really quite clearly seems to be coming to a head here, and there's a number of things that I want to talk about, and this video really is going to be looking a lot at previous research that I put forward and showing you how, again, this is all lining up in incredibly surreal manner. And much like I put forward at the end of the last couple of videos, again, 2 out of 3 of my last videos were pulled. We got one of them back up. Now the other one we're awaiting the appeal. And again, just like when we were, banned years ago, all the things that come, it's all these arbitrary infractions. And I'll get into all of that and we'll talk about all that. But what I want, as always, is for you to realize coming into this, especially for those of you new to this channel, is that this is all a relative interpretation of all of this information I'm going to show you today. And again, it's going to span things I've been talking about not since just last year, as you can see pulled up here, but going back at least 5 years now. So we'll get into all of that. And with that also being said, let's just look at this date that I posted this video last year, May 25th. And centerpiece in this particular video is talking about the Jordan Peele film Us, and how the Hands Across America segment in there really seemed to be connected to some predictive programming. You can see I've even got it written out for you here, and we're going to come back to that. But, again, this idea of the Hands Across America in the film being connected to, the Tethered coming up from underground and forming that human chain. And so what I have here is a map of all of the different protests and rallies that have come up in the wake of the killing of George Floyd on May 25th. So, that date falling then on the 34-year anniversary of Hands Across America. And here we have quite the interesting take on it now. For those of you, fervently clicking the flag button right now, I'm going to urge you to, please just calm down, take a breath with me, and understand that I'm in no way undermining what these protests and rallies, could and should be representing, or the, right for people to put that out there. And, I do want to draw attention to the fact that, on my first channels on here, before I started leaning into connecting all this with the occult writings and was just looking more at stories and, things that bothered me in the world, police brutality did come up in a number of those videos. And so, I'm not in any way saying that, a lot of what's happening is not founded. And of course, then we're going to talk about how, it does seem to be utilized here by the elite to further a number of other agendas. And there's really no two ways around that if you're approaching this with your eyes even halfway open. But so we'll get into all of that. And, again, this idea of using a real tragedy as a platform to further agendas. I mean, again, this is exactly what we saw in the incidents surrounding 9/11, any other number of false flags, where real tragedy, real deaths do occur, and then things are put into place as a result. But so again, in thinking about the Hands Across America, the protests, right, this unifying, this is conceptually the same idea here, right, with all of this taking place on that date. Quite fascinating. Now, I'm going to be tying this into a number of my other, again, videos here. But before we really start, breaking things down here, I want to flag the peculiarities of, George Floyd also having been infected with COVID. It just strikes me as so peculiar. Again, of all the times, this is by no means a new issue, and that is a big part of, right, the issue here, and, all of the different splitting that's going on. But again, when you have this disease here that, is said to be 3 times as deadly for Black Americans, and then that is the time where the fire is really amped up, and you, right, have this disease that affects the respiratory system, and then this phrase, right, Floyd said to be saying before, right, he died, "Please, I can't breathe." And again, on the right side of your screen here, these ideas of, right, chaos into order. And the other one I really want to draw your eye to is the USA Grid blackout. As we did discuss in the previous video, really nice swept aside headline of Trump signing the national emergency order for the foreign hackers, looking at the power grid. Of course, how that lined up with everything else. But again, if we look to the left side of our screen here, I want to start to connect this video that I put out more than a year ago to my most recent video. Now, you can see here that I have this excerpt, and we're talking about the Economist World in 2019 cover with the Vitruvian Man, and I'm using that as this idea to expand on Hands Across America and saying, right, hands across the world, which, again, we could look at a world map of the protests and see that this still fits what I have put forward to you. But now, I want you to see here not only reference to the greatest hoax ever, but these 2 numbers written out here, 156 and 141. And so again here, the right side of your screen, one last thing to point out that shares, right, this same coding here is Vitruvian Man, right, where we're now drawing these lines further. So looking at that number that was written out here, we have 141 being the same as not only World War III, but also the 3 of spades. Now, why this is so important is because my last video focused specifically on David Blaine's most recent special, and if you're, furrowing your brow at me right now, that's not on me. There's just a lot you're not aware of yet, and that's okay. I've got a number of videos that I highly encourage that you look into. Now, when we take this a step further, the other number, remember, that we saw written out here was 156, not only the number of Our Lady Babylon, but again, you can see in the same just width of this screenshot here, it comes up in relation to his special again, right? And this idea of the Ace of Hearts. But you do see these references again, right, to Wuhan virus, Seattle 2020, of course, the location of Chaz, Chop, right, all that just, stupid shit. The Song of Myself reference, right, the poem from Walt Whitman that Inslee quoted twice during the stay home order. when he was first putting that out there, again on March 23rd, a date that I said would be important, right, in a video from 2019, and that was the Chelsea Wolf video. And of course, those of you paying attention saw her name come up in that 164 coding, which was of course the same as Please I Can't Breathe. So I know that's a lot to process and take in there, but I'm going to ask you to stick with me here because we're really just setting the stage. Now, take a look here on the left side of your screen, and notice I've got the dates April 1st of this year to May 25th. Now that's the David Blaine special release to, of course, the George Floyd incident. You'll notice that it is 55 days apart. Now remember, that is the same as New Age as well as Black Flag. Again, we are seeing America turned over right now. But what I also want you to look at here is that span is 7 weeks and 6 days, which we can look at as this number 76. Now, part of why this is so incredibly crucial is that in the thumbnail for my last video, we have here the 7 and the 6. And I was talking about a big incident coming to Los Angeles, of course, with Blaine and the magic tricks with the Lakers. And again, emphasizing Staples Center having that 1111 address. And when we're connecting this all back to the film Us, of course, the 1111 incredibly important, even in just thinking about, right, with the Twin Towers being a version of that. So that 76 then seems very important in figuring this further. And when we look at something else here, we can look at the span of time from when COVID was declared a pandemic on March 11th, and again that 5/25. Now that's an outright 76 days apart. Holy shit. 7 and 6, of course, is 13. That's the death card, right? Transformation, all of those important concepts. Now, of course, taking it a step further here, even George Floyd's initials, G and F, the 7th and 6th letters. So there's that 76 again. And then so what are the odds that 76 days after his death is actually going to be the date, August 8th? And so, of course, that nice 88, one of our favorite numbers to see pop up here, and we'll get back to this last one that we have written out here. And of course, same as Trump, false flags, the New Age, right, on and on. Now this phrase, snow us, again, this is derived from the cover of, again, Jordan Peele's film. And I highly, highly recommend you look at those videos because there's a lot there. And for those of you who have followed along over the years, I mean, it's really quite unbelievable the way that this is stacking. And let's keep moving for a minute. So obviously I want to draw attention to the date July 6th. Could be very important. You can see how, right, it falls on the calendar there. And then when we're thinking about a simple value of 76, we do see vaccines, the mark, the plan, right? All of these things that we talk about. And you'll also see here Pelosi, and I did flag that because she did have the recent, press conference, whatever she's giving, and she's like literally dedicating a bill for George Floyd and called him George Kirby. It's fucking unreal. Forgetting the script, whatever. But there's a lot there, y'all. Now, we kind of look at this and breaking it down in a headline sort of way, right? The murder of George Floyd, right, is a big thing that we see being said. So when we look into that coding, we see it's a simple 252. And of course, right, this going back to the things I was just saying about that 323 date, the Chelsea Wolf, you can see the phrase Ar Clow Amen prophecy having that 252 coding. And again here, this number written out, 171, that is the same value as Hands Across America. It's also, well, we'll pull that number up for you here in a second here, because that is absolutely crucial. But if you keep looking, I want to point out here that did come up in the David Blaine video in a scene that I was particularly disturbed by, involving Blaine's daughter Dessa in front of a sign reading men's toilet talent. Of course, one of the ways that I broke that phrase down, but very troubling. I really don't care for it. So we have all of that. I want you to see, of course, another way, this is being talked about is, of course, right, the death of George Floyd, a simple value of 211. 211, very big, of course, connected to my Tupac research, as well as the phrase Donald Trump sacrifice. You can see it is the same as Santa Cruz, California. Again, this is the location in the film Us. It is one of the most crucial videos of mine for you to see. And let's pull up here, since again, remember, in this 252 we have that 171 written out. And I do want you to be able to see, let's just pull it up this way. Okay, how that comes up here. And the reason that I'm pulling this 171 up and talking about, again here, the PES theory, and you can see with 171 the Death Tarot card is written out. And again, we saw that 76 a million times earlier, and as I was saying, right, you add those numbers together, you have 13, the Death Tarot card. But so, hold on to that. And back to the left side of your screen here, you see the phrase Hands Across America and the Roman numerals for 2020. And that simple value of 245, and how that is also the same value as Christopher Columbus. Now, this is an article from a few weeks ago at this point, coming out June 10th. And it was talking about the decapitation of two Christopher Columbus statues. And of course, right, him being connected to right, the colonizing of America. I'm not going to go into it. But when we look back here, and you can see that I put this video out June 15th, 2016, again, a way that can be written out, 156. One of the numbers that we have written out in this Hands Across America video here, but is the PES theory. And I told you then, and for those of you who followed me for the last 4 years, you know that I've been building on this theory. And part of it really focused on a hidden clue within The Simpsons, not only in this episode, The Telltale Head, but also in the intro of the show, in which the statue of Jebediah Springfield, the man who founded, right, Springfield, is decapitated. And of course, the ice cream into the eye. We've discussed all of this being metaphorical for, right, the overturning, the assassination attempt, all of these things. But so this is really endlessly fascinating, and I do highly encourage those of you who have not seen this. Again, the thumbnail for the video is this particular image with the end written over the American flag. Again, you can see it here. I'm really not bullshitting you. This is absolutely stunning that this has come around the way it has. And again, if we go in here, you can see not only that 171, but here we have this 138, this really incredibly important number that we've looked at. Now, you do see that is the same, of course, as Donald Trump. It is also the same as the telltale head, if you wanted to look into that. But I want you to also see here that it is the same as cancel culture, what we are in the midst of right now. And I want you to see with that phrase, right? The CC, of course, a nice 3-3, and the total of letters in those words, right? Cancel is 6 letters, culture is 7 letters. You have that mirrored 76. Just like 33 is a mirrored number, why that's also important. Oh my God. So it really does stun me, right? And again, this really is what we are in the midst of right now. Everything being toppled over, being questioned, being reevaluated. They're not to say that shouldn't happen, right? It's the way in which it's happening. And since we're connecting this so much with the David Blaine video, something that I really want to tie in here is that I did put that video out 2 days before all of this went down, with the protests and all of these things, right? On May 23rd, I put this video out. But something I want you to see here, and where is it? Is it over here in LA? Yeah. I want you to see that they got their city status on May 23rd, 1835. And again, the odds that I put a video out, I think, what's that, 185 years later? We got the calculator up here. Fuck it. 2020, what was that? 1835? Yeah. Yeah. That simple value of 185, you want to see? You have Donald John Trump written out, Judgment and the Star, the 2 cards that are tilted off of that Economist cover with the tarot deck. Again, Zion's Coming King, Book of Revelations, all of these massive pieces that we've talked about. Again, even Lisa the Iconoclast, that's another central piece to PES theory. Anyways, what I want you to see there, right, is the incorporation date then is April 4th. Again, that nice 44. Previous videos I've talked about this immensely, but in particular for today, the World Trade Centers, again, as I've discussed immensely in the past, were inaugurated on April 4th, 1973. And again, that is the same exact date that David Blaine was born. And again, this video coming out on that May 23rd date. So I really want you to see and understand that that is absolutely stunning, and that is something that you should really be interested by in how it connects to all of this other information that I presented to you. And again, with all of that coming up, and the fact that in this Jordan Peele film, again, I talked about his first film as well, right? Get Out. Second 9/11 was going to be on some geriatric shit. And that's something that, again, with COVID, they say affecting that elderly population, right? some geriatric shit, the same as the coagula procedure, President Trump, right? Second 9/11. All these heavy hitting pieces that we talk about time and again. Elephant in the room. I'm just going to go through them here. And of course, pause about these, right? And you can see David Blaine, The Magic Way, that last video, sharing that same exact fucking coding. It's unreal, you guys. And they're pulling these videos, right, over nothing. Which is why I'm telling you, you gotta take this more seriously. Absolutely stunning. So, give me just a moment here. I need to collect my thoughts and see. I'm not exactly sure how I want to end this video, so one moment. So I want to play this clip for you, thinking about what I was saying right before I took that break there. And of course, notice this nice, it just so happens to be 808 views. And again, we were looking at 76 days after George Floyd's death is going to be August 8th. And in this video, the thumbnail for it is in fact, right, that 7/6 as well. But so what I want to do is I want to play for you what I was kind of honing in on here. So take a look at this audio and we'll see how it stacks. Alright, nothing is what it seems. They're most certainly making a very deliberate effort to keep everybody confused, at each other's throats, divided over everything. And it's up to us to put that aside and actually just unify as humans, right? That's what this is this challenge to see if we're able to actually have something that can allow us to transcend all of the constructs and all of the barriers that we built around ourselves and each other. And if and when that is not accomplished on that grand scale, yes, they're going to break everything down and rebuild it the way they intend. And so why that's so interesting to me is because then, of course, 2 days later, we do have the George Floyd incident, and what we're seeing in the wake of it is absolutely a push to change things on that massive scale, but we're really not seeing it in a unified manner in any sense of the word. There's hardly even unity, it seems, in groups that are supposed to be on the same side. There's the splitting of hairs at this point has become so absurd, and we're still not in a place, it seems, where the root has properly been identified. It's still stuck in these superficial constructs, and what we're seeing is just that being brought closer and closer to the point of essentially ensuring that the people wipe themselves out, right? And then the elite get to come in and be the saviors. And that's not fucking right. Okay, I want to point out a few other things here before I get into any sort of a tangent and try to keep this concise. But I want you to see here again from that May 25th to June 27th, which is today, that could be looked at as 33 days. And I want you to see this other span of time here from May 25th to November 3rd this year, and how it totals 163 days. So again, that simple value of 163 is the same as Make America Great Again, as well as Salute to America. And I remember last year, that was Trump's 4th of July celebration. And again, the 4th of July this year, something to absolutely keep your eye on in terms of a huge change coming here, right? You see this phrase, birth of violence, and that connects to Chelsea Wolfe. But again, this 163 is rooted in my Blaine video, right? The Magic Way Dessa, because that video was setting the stage for Dessa to take the reins. Now, I want you to also draw in here to this 23 weeks, 2 days, this 232. So when we look at this, I want you to see, and again, this is from PES theory, this particular coding. It says, I am the law and order candidate, and that was Donald Trump. That was a platform that he was running on. And of course, right now, law and order, a huge topic in many ways. But look here, it is also the same as the purge election year. And it looks like what we're in the middle of right now absolutely is a purge in so many ways, right? And again, you can see here stirring up riots. And of course, this is an election year, right? And it's just like, right, with that 525, this 11-3, these dates that I talk about, right? And it just is a matter of what fucking year. And, you know, it looks like this year is a really big one. Clearly hard to believe, right? Whatever things being the same would ever look like. Granted that what was normal was certainly atrocious in many ways of the word. But still. Now I want you to see here this last way of breaking down that span of time is 5 months, 10 days, and that's that number 510, which is the English value for 85. But so, again, how that connects in here with this idea of blackout. Plan 9, violence, right? All these things. Oh my God. So, I think that's more or less what I wanted to show you today. There's of course much more hidden in between here for you to find, look at, and research further on your own. So much more. All right. So take a look at everything on these videos, because none of it ends up here arbitrarily. All right. And with all that, just fucking please be well.